there's a lot of negative stuff around JayZ right now, which is clearly damaging to him.
Yeah, and I think there's like a famous quote from someone who was acquitted, and he said, all right, where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
I mean, social media was a light. Beyonce's next, JayZ's next, all the people in Inner Circle is next.
Yeah, and the problem is there are just so many pictures of the two of them partying together, and he clearly was at a lot of Diddy parties.
What if JayZ wasn't just in the room, but knew exactly what was happening? In a jaw-dropping moment, a victim named him as part of Diddy's inner circle, and the judge snapped, tearing into his testimony like never before. This isn't just messy, it could be criminal. The courtroom went silent. The industry was shaken. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why JayZ's name might never be the same again.
Stay locked in. Combs is facing new accusations of human trafficking as he awaits his federal trial. In a civil case filed in Florida April 1st, Joseph Manzaro alleges, according to court documents obtained by E! News, that he was drugged, transported against his will, and sexually maimed as a victim of a coercive and organized criminal enterprise facilitated by Combs and others back in 2015, and names celebs such as Beyonce, JayZ, and LeBron James as witnesses in the lawsuit. In his filing, Manzaro says the alleged events took place in April 2015. He states that he lost consciousness after feeling a, quote, greasy substance resembling Vaseline as he opened the front door to his home, after which he says he was transported to another residence, where an associate of Combs allegedly told him that the music mogul wanted him brought to a freak-off event. Manzaro alleges in the suit he was secretly transferred to the music producer's home through a concealed tunnel allegedly connected to Gloria Estefan and Emilio Estefan's Miami property. He alleges that upon regaining partial consciousness, he found himself inside a large party area upon information and belief that it was a birthday party for Combs' then 17-year-old son Christian Combs. There he was allegedly forced to appear in a penis mask.
The moment
that
changed everything. The courtroom was already tense. Cameras outside, press whispering inside. Everyone knew this trial had the potential to shake the industry, but no one expected what came next. It happened so fast, yet the room felt frozen. A key victim, under sworn testimony, named JayZ as part of Diddy's inner circle. Not just a friend or collaborator, but someone who allegedly knew exactly what went down at those infamous private parties. People in the gallery looked at each other. You could hear the shift, gasps, a chair creaking, even a juror visibly raising an eyebrow. The victim didn't flinch. They spoke calmly but clearly. He wasn't just around, he knew. They all knew.
Combs is about to face off in the biggest trial of his life, from those freak-offs to those RICO charges. There's a lot going on in this case, and a lot of witnesses will also be taking the stand. But here to break down the very latest, I want to bring into the conversation legal analyst Nima Rahmani. Nima, thanks so much for being with us here on Knife Now from Fox.
Of course, Christina, excited for next week.
And it's been a trial that we've been continuing to follow here over the last few months and really over the last year, as those developments have still tried to come into our newsroom. But let's start with the very basics. Something that came out this week. Diddy formally declined the last plea deal that he was offered. Again, we know court is set to begin on Monday. Was this an expected move for him to turn down that final plea offer?
Christina, it was expected. And the judge in the case, Judge Subramanian, asked Diddy, did you decline and reject the government's offer? And the reason is it's the defendant's right to a speedy trial, and the judge wants to make sure that he is making a knowing and voluntary decision to push the case to trial, because obviously there's a benefit to pleading. Usually you get a reduced sentence. I still think it would be double-digit years in federal prison.
That was the moment the judge leaned forward and cut off the defense's line of questioning. Then came the quote that shook the room. "You cannot sit in that chair and pretend you didn't know." You could feel the air leave the room. The judge's tone was serious, even disappointed, as if JayZ had crossed a line that went beyond celebrity and into legal danger. From that moment on, it wasn't about image anymore. This wasn't PR cleanup or tabloid gossip. This was real, legal, and public.
Accuser claiming he was sexually assaulted, raped, and humiliated at a freak-off party in Miami, and that other big stars saw him in rough shape. TMZ is all over this story. Branson Quirk joining us.
Which leads us to what JayZ actually said. Because now, all eyes are on his testimony. what he claimed versus what was exposed. Let's rewind. Before his name even came up in that chilling victim statement, JayZ had already testified. In his testimony, he made it very clear he wasn't involved, didn't attend anything illegal, and didn't know what Diddy did in his private time. He positioned himself as distant, friendly with Diddy, sure, but not part of any dark circle. But when you compare that to the victim's timeline, it doesn't add up. The victim mentioned events, houses, and gatherings that matched the same time frames JayZ claimed to be elsewhere. And not just once, repeatedly.
It's live. Now, Branson, let me get this right. This new Diddy accuser is basically claiming he was sexually assaulted at the freak-off party, and he claims that other celebrities were there as well.
Yes, exactly. In this lawsuit, and it's important to note that these names are not being sued, but they are named as witnesses inside this lawsuit, those names being JayZ, Beyonce, Gloria Estefan, as well as LeBron James. Just to paint you a little bit of a picture of this horrific lawsuit, a man by the name of Joseph Marzano, he claims that he had, in the beginning of this lawsuit, he claims that he woke up in a mansion, this is way back in April of 2015, in a mansion owned by Gloria and Emilio Estefan, and when he woke up not knowing how he got there, he was then led through a tunnel to Diddy's house, and we can confirm that Diddy, his home is nearby to Gloria and Emilio Estefan's home, and once he was through this tunnel, he eventually came across and claimed that LeBron James was walking by in a towel of sorts, saw him in rough shape, and said, someone's got to do something. And
that's when lawyers and legal commentators stepped in. One said, if he knew and claimed he didn't, that's not just shady, that's perjury. People started piecing things together, comparing statements, matching flight logs, party lists, even social media posts. Suddenly, JayZ's clean testimony looked more like carefully chosen words. And credibility? Once that cracks in court, it's hard to repair. One legal expert said bluntly, once a jury senses you're lying, even a little, everything else you say becomes suspect.
New developments within the past couple hours in the Sean Diddy Combs case.
Defense attorneys are requesting he be released on bail and placed on home confinement. Eyewitness News reporter Annabelle Munoz is here with more on a ruling expected in a matter of days that could lead to his release.
It certainly could, Philip and Ellen, and this is Combs' third request for bail. Two judges have shut down previous efforts, saying there's enough evidence he's a danger to the community to obstruct justice and intimidate witnesses. Today, his attorneys made another case for home confinement. Family members of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs arrived at a federal courthouse in New York as his attorneys urged a judge to release Combs on a $50 million bond. They argued Combs should be placed on home confinement in a 3-bedroom New York City apartment under 24/7 monitoring by full-time security. The prosecution argued Combs nor private security could be trusted to comply with the court. The judge did not immediately rule and says he will have a decision next week. This comes just days after the filing of 5 new civil lawsuits against Combs by men and women.
And clearly, he was at a lot of Diddy's parties. Which brings us to what the victim actually said, because these allegations go far beyond just being in the room. The victim didn't just name names. They painted scenes. Specific parties, addresses, dates. They mentioned VIP-only zones and said JayZ was absolutely present. One detail stood out. Guests had to leave their phones at the door, sign NDAs, and use code words to access certain areas. There was a separate area inside the house. Only the big names could go there. And JayZ? He wasn't just a guest watching from the sidelines. The victim claimed he was part of that exclusive loop, the kind of person who didn't need to ask questions because he already knew what was going on.
A lot of negative stuff around JayZ right now, which is clearly damaging to him.
Yeah, and I think there's like a famous quote from someone who was acquitted, and he said, all right, where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
I mean, social media was a light. Beyonce's next, JayZ's next, all the people in the inner circle is next.
Yeah, and the problem is there are just so many pictures of the two of them partying together, and he clearly was at a load of Diddy parties.
Lawyers representing the victim told reporters JayZ's involvement wasn't passive. He was aware. And silence? That doesn't mean innocence. This wasn't just a name drop. This was a claim that he saw something and said nothing. And in some legal contexts, that's enough to put you under a whole new spotlight.
Let's go back to New York City. Want to get some updates on the case that is unfolding there regarding Sean Diddy Combs. These were the courtroom sketches. Just today, we're turning our attention now there, the sex trafficking case against Diddy and the possible resentencing of the Menendez brothers in Los Angeles. We'll get to that in just a moment here, but let's focus our efforts on New York. We want to get to these headlines in both cases, and we're going to do that with our friend, Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor and legal analyst. He joins us. Nima, good to see you, and thanks for being with us here. You were tweeting about the Diddy case today. There was an emergency hearing called this afternoon at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, the judge ordering the prosecution to turn over its findings from a jail cell raid, Diddy's jail cell, just yesterday. What were the contents of those raids?
Well, apparently, according to the defense, their legal documents, the government saying no. On the contrary, they're just some handwritten notes and a calendar. And what the judge did, Judge Subramanian, is he ordered the prosecution to destroy their copies. He kept copies, and he's going to review them in chambers or in camera. And one of two things will happen. Either the defense is right.
Now, people are looking at this inner circle of celebrities very differently. Enter the network behind the scenes. For years, there were whispers about Diddy's exclusive gatherings, invite-only events for A-list stars. These weren't your typical after-parties. We're talking compound houses, private islands, armed security. JayZ was always on those lists. So were Usher, Meek Mill, French Montana, a tight circle flying private, signing silence agreements, and
Statement to E! News, Combs' legal team says the filed complaint demonstrates the depraved lengths plaintiffs will travel to garner headlines in pursuit of a payday. No sane person reading this complaint could credit this story. Mr. Combs looks forward to having his day in court, where these lies and the perverse motives of those who told them will be revealed. E! News has reached out to JayZ and Beyonce, the Estefans, and James for comment and has not heard back. JayZ's attorney tells TMZ his client wasn't in Florida at the time of the alleged incident. Additionally, James' rep tells the outlet the athlete was playing basketball for the Cleveland Cavaliers and never in Miami at the time the alleged party took place, while Gloria and Emilio's reps say that no parties were thrown at their Miami house between 2012 and 2019. As a result of the alleged party, Manzaro says in the lawsuit he suffered catastrophic physical injuries, including severe internal trauma, permanent groin damage, sexual maiming, and multiple inguinal hernias, and that they are extensively documented by medical evaluations from a urologist and surgeon. In a 2024 federal indictment charging Combs with sex trafficking and other charges, he was accused of using his companies to transport women and male sex workers to take part in recorded sex performances.
What's becoming clearer now is that this group may have operated under a don't ask, don't tell understanding. If something shady was happening, you looked away. Or maybe you already knew and didn't care as long as you were protected. A former industry insider said, if you were in that circle, you benefited access, deals, exposure. But the price was silence.
News has learned that a jury is expected to be seated tomorrow in the racketeering and sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. More prospective jurors questioned today to make up the group of 18 people needed to officially begin the trial on schedule on May 12th. And Combs has pleaded not guilty to racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution charges, 5 counts and all. Let's go ahead and bring in our Rena Roy for the latest on this story. And Rena, good to see you again. In this story here, the judge criticized lawyers on both sides for failing to find qualified jurors and said, quote, "We are running out of time." What more do we know?
Yeah, well, you and I were just sitting here just a short time ago, right, questioning if things could get delayed, talking about how it seemed like a slow day. Well, it turns out the judge thought so too. A lot of people were dismissed today, whether it was because of potential bias or conflicts, but he basically told both sides they have to get this done so that opening statements can begin as scheduled on Monday. As he said, they're running out of time. Now, as it stands, there are 35 prospective jurors in the pool, and they need to reach a pool of 45 before narrowing that down and seating 12 jurors plus alternates. And both sides agreed it is likely they could get this done tomorrow, so we will be keeping a close eye on that.
All right, Rena, thank you. We appreciate it. And for more on this, let's go and bring in a former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, Nima Rahmani. Nima, good to see you. So what do you make of the development that a jury is expected to be seated tomorrow? We mentioned the judge's urgency to start opening statements on time.
The victim's story supports that. JayZ wasn't the mastermind, but he allegedly knew, allegedly stood by as things happened. And now, with the inner circle under investigation, people are questioning everyone who was part of it.
Sean Diddy Combs has been sitting in federal prison for 8 months, and it is a lousy prison. And I got to tell you, there is a world where people look at the indictment against him and look at the case as we know it at this point and say, wow, has this guy been overpunished to this point? But now it will begin in earnest on Monday, okay? And we're going to see whether or not the government has the ability to show charges that will have made it a huge mistake for Combs to not take a deal. Now, what's he charged with? Sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, I got to tell you, most of those are implication crimes, meaning that they're going to say, well, we can't get you specifically for this thing, but we know you were part of this enterprise that was doing this thing. If convicted, he could face life. He probably could have gotten a deal. He didn't want a deal.
That brings back to court. What the judge said could mean serious legal implications for JayZ. That quote, "You cannot sit in that chair and pretend you didn't know," wasn't just shade. It was a legal warning, a hint that JayZ's testimony might not just be weak, it could be false. And lying under oath? That's perjury. And it carries real consequences.
Her is just that they were earlier. It happened earlier than this year, than all of the big hit. So in other news, you guys know Diddy is still in court. So today, Thursday, May 8th, no one's in court, but they will return on Friday, May 9th, and I'll be there as well too. And on Friday, May 9th, they're going to try and cut down this pool of 45 people into 12 jurors and 6 alternates that they need to begin the trial on Monday. Monday is where opening statements start. Monday's date is, because I know people don't watch this in real time sometimes, Monday, May 12th is when opening statements begin in Diddy's trial. Now, yesterday in court, Wednesday, May 7th, there were some issues with the jurors because it's hard to find people that are either not connected to not even just Diddy in the story at this point, but also to some of the attorneys in the room and the judge. So there was one juror that took issue with being selected. He came onto the stand and instantly you noticed, like you would notice in the court, that there was like a kind of like a little key that went down with him and the judge. And it's because he's actually litigated some cases with the judge. So of course, he was dismissed. And the jurors said, like, you know, I wouldn't be comfortable doing this because I think it may make it hard for me to litigate some other cases that I have coming up. So he was dismissed. But then, and the judge kind of didn't really, not that the judge didn't care, but
the court lawyers started buzzing about what might come next. If JayZ is found to have misled the court, he could be called back or even face charges as a material witness who withheld the truth. One analyst put it this way: the judge's words weren't casual. That's a signal. They're not playing anymore. JayZ's legal team has reportedly gone into full panic mode, reassessing everything he said. There are even whispers of subpoenas and possibly federal interest in what JayZ knew and when.
With the Sean Combs trial fast approaching, prosecutors are adding to their case, now hitting the former rap mogul with additional sex trafficking charges. ABC News' chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky is here with those details. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, Janae. Sean Combs is set to go on trial 1 month from today, and the case against him just got a little bigger. This morning, Sean Diddy Combs faces 2 additional criminal charges a month before he's scheduled to stand trial in New York. Federal prosecutors charged Combs with an additional count of sex trafficking and an additional count of transportation to engage in prostitution. Both relate to an individual referred to in court papers as Victim 2. Combs previously pleaded not guilty to 1 count of each of those charges, as well as the most serious charge he faces, racketeering conspiracy.
For Sean Combs, the challenge in this new superseding indictment is that any one alleged victim could amount to serious prison time. He would have to disprove each and every one of the 4 alleged victims, because if even one is believed, he could serve life behind bars.
Combs now faces a total of 5 federal counts that could get him decades in prison if convicted. His attorneys are downplaying the new indictment, saying in a statement these are not new allegations or new accusers. These are the same individuals, former long-term girlfriends who were involved in consensual relationships. This was their private sex life, defined by consent, not coercion. But the indictment says Combs lured women under the pretense of a romantic relationship into engaging in sexual encounters. And when he didn't get his way, prosecutors allege Combs kidnapped a woman, flashed a gun, and dangled a female victim.
The courtroom reaction turned this from bad optics into a potential legal firestorm. The ripple effects? Already hitting hard. While lawyers handle court, JayZ's PR team is scrambling. After the judge's comment echoed through the room, it didn't take long for that impact to reach his entire brand.
In other news, Sean Diddy Combs has been hit with 6 new lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault, including from a 16-year-old boy. The musician has been further accused of raping women and sexually assaulting men, though has previously denied all of the charges against him. Our US correspondent Martha Kellner has the latest.
These new civil suits have been brought by at least 6 separate individuals and contain a whole slew of damaging and disturbing allegations against P. Diddy. They're brought by 4 women and 2 men who allege variously that between the years of 1995 and 2021, they were either raped or sexually assaulted by P. Diddy. One of those people making the allegations is a man who says that he was a 16-year-old boy when he was sexually assaulted by P. Diddy, who he says presented it as some form of a rite of passage for getting into the music industry. He alleges that Sean Combs told him, "Don't you want to break into the business?" before demanding that he drop his pants. There is an allegation also from a woman who says that she was 19 years old when P. Diddy raped her inside a Marriott hotel room in Manhattan. She's also taking civil action against Marriott hotels. There is another man who alleges that he was attacked.
Inside Rock Nation, the vibe reportedly shifted into full crisis mode. One insider said, "It's all hands on deck. Nobody's answering outside calls. It's damage control, period." Lawyers and PR reps were reportedly working in shifts, drafting and redrafting statements, and then choosing not to release them at all. The silence? Strategic. Every word right now could be used in court or spun online.
The trial for Sean Combs is set to begin tomorrow in New York with jury selection. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including sex trafficking, and has denied all civil allegations against him. Now, sources say Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, will be a central witness during the trial. Now, sources also tell CNN other witnesses expected to testify include his former sexual partners, a business associate, and a male sex worker. Joining me now to discuss is trial attorney and former senior assistant district attorney Otto Ekpo. Thank you for being here. Can you just put into perspective how significant this case is?
This is a very, very significant case. I like to akin this is the Gen Z's, I guess, version of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Wow.
I was in 5th grade whenever the O.J. verdict came out, and I remember my teacher stopping trial, or stopping the court, our courtroom just for us to figure out what's going on. We got to figure out what's happening with this verdict. What's different in this particular case than the O.J. Simpson trial is that this is not going to be live streamed.
Yeah.
You know, in federal court, you can't live stream any type of court at all. You can't live stream any trials. And so your audience is really going to have to focus on how CNN is kind of letting them know how the trial is.
Meanwhile, the internet is doing what it does best, digging. Old clips of JayZ and Diddy at private parties have resurfaced. Videos once seen as harmless now look suspicious. A 2009 clip of them leaving a private club with heavy security? It's gone viral. Everyone's asking, what was behind those velvet ropes? TikTok timelines, Twitter breakdowns, Reddit theories, and JayZ's silence? It's only feeding the frenzy.
That's what I got, Baba. So shout out to JayZ, right? That's what I got. Or JayZ, whatever you want to call him. Shout out to him. That's what I got, Baba.
What do you think about JayZ saying that him and Diddy were never friends?
Come on, gang. You got to say that, right? You got to say that I don't know you. See, I don't think you understand. See, you do a whole lot of blogging and a lot of podcasts. Whatever you do, I don't know what you do, but you got to understand, gang. The first thing you got to do is disconnect, right? I don't know JayZ. I don't know Diddy. You got to say you don't know nothing. That's what I got. I told you before, right? You can't really say it. Right, but behind all them lines, what he's saying is, I don't know what he was doing. I don't got nothing to do with that. He know Diddy, but he don't know Diddy when he transformed. I swear to God, Baba. When he transformed to the other person, he don't know that. Right? I swear to God, Baba. But he know Diddy. Everybody know Diddy. That's what I'm about. But he don't know what they said like that. He don't know about that.
But the question on everyone's mind, not just did he know, but how much did he see? Because this isn't just about proximity anymore. It's about participation. Or, at the very least, complicity. Anonymous assistants, former bodyguards, stylists, all coming forward. Their message? He knew. They all knew. One former assistant, now going viral, said, "There were entire rooms only Jay, Puff, and a few others could enter. We were told never to ask questions. Blackout rooms. No cameras. No phones. Full privacy." Even leaked flight logs show JayZ and Diddy traveling to remote villas during alleged party timelines. One blog said it best. It's not a coincidence when the same names keep showing up in the same places on the same days.
About Tupac. Can I explain something here tonight? I hope y'all clap because I'm about to say exactly what y'all think. White people always. Yeah, be careful. Be careful. I can say this because I'm so not a racist. White people call Tupac. I'm sorry. Tupac. I know. If it was Tupac, it would have a K. You're not the first. Hopefully after tonight, you will be the last.
Old interview footage from The Breakfast Club where JayZ laughs off Diddy's wild parties? It's now resurfaced. "Y'all know Diddy," he joked. But now, people aren't laughing with him. Even former supporters, podcasters, influencers, are speaking out. One said, "When the room shifts like this, it's because people are done protecting you." Whether he funded parties or just looked the other way, the perception is changing. Fast. And it's hitting his business hard.
A lot of negative stuff around JayZ right now, which is clearly damaging to him.
Yeah, and I think there's like a famous quote from someone who was acquitted, and he said, all right, where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
I mean, social media was a light. Beyonce's next, JayZ's next, all the people in the inner circle is next.
Yeah, and the problem is there are just so many pictures of the two of them partying together, and he clearly was at a load of Diddy parties.
JayZ's brand isn't just a name, it's an empire. NFL partnerships, tech investments, liquor deals, all of it built on prestige and trust. And now that trust is under review. Sources say Roc Nation held an emergency board meeting after the victim testimony. At least one major corporate partner is already assessing their exposure. Other celebrities? Quiet, meek, culled. Even LeBron. Not a single post. Not even a like. In Hollywood, silence speaks volumes.
Been at one when I was a kid, like 16, 17, standing outside.
Nick.
Yeah.
You said this one. Come on.
Yeah, I live my truth.
More fallout. Civil lawsuits could be next, especially if more victims come forward. Financial insiders are whispering about class actions forming quietly. One media consultant said bluntly, "This isn't just gossip anymore. This is risk management. Boards don't wait for verdicts. They move on optics." And the optics? They're only getting worse.
Here in New York, jury selection begins this morning in the federal criminal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecutors accuse the former music mogul of abusing, threatening, and coercing people into what they say were elaborate and produced sex performances that were known as freak-offs.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he could face life in prison.
For more, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos, who joins us here on set. So the presiding judge hopes to have a jury in 3 days, given how well-known Combs is. How realistic is that?
Well, all bets are off now that in the last 2 years, Donald Trump was tried here in Manhattan, just a few feet away from this courthouse. And Donald Trump is arguably the most famous or infamous person in human history. And they seated a jury in state court in a matter of 2 or 3 days. Judge Subramanian can probably seat a jury in this case in 3-4 days. I don't think any more than a week. It moves much faster in federal court than it does in state court. So you can expect a jury by the end of the week.
So now we ask, what's next? Will prosecutors follow up on the judge's remarks? Legal analysts say yes. It's possible JayZ could be resubpoenaed or investigated for obstruction. But it's not just the courts watching. The public has turned into investigators. Twitter threads, Instagram receipts, TikTok timelines. The big question, will more victims name other celebrities? Because once one domino falls, others follow. One anonymous user posted, JayZ, not the last name. He's just the first that shocked us. We may be witnessing the collapse of celebrity protection culture. This isn't cancel culture. This is exposure culture. People aren't scared to speak anymore.